discussion on anchoring the CDF and the other funds into our constitution. Let me, first of all, congratulate the two members who have come up with this discussion and say that they did the right thing, because CDF especially has transformed our country tremendously. If it were not for the CDF, we would not be where we are in our constituencies. And this makes Kenya actually look very beautiful, look like really a country which has really been transformed as far as developments are concerned. This has tremendously also contributed to the education of our children. Because if you look at CDF, education is the only equalizer, because it will make a child from a poor family perform well and be able to even be considered among others who are coming from rich families. So entrenching this in the Constitution is very, very important, so that we stop the court cases every now and then. It is through the CDF where we came up with the day mixed schools. And these day mixed schools have really transformed education, because the pupils and also students who go to day mixed schools have the opportunity to even have education in secondary schools, a case which was not there before. There are some students who could not have afforded, parents who would not have afforded to go take their children to secondary school because of the huge amounts of school fees. And now, because of CDF, we are able to construct mixed day schools. We are able to also pay the little amount of fee which is expected to be paid for day mixed schools. And therefore, this has enabled very, very many students to actually have the opportunity to go to secondary schools, and not only secondary schools, to even access a university education, colleges, and what have you. So CDF has made education possible, therefore making our people be equal to each other. So parents no longer do arambes. And if actually this time in age, if they were to do arambes, it would be very costly, and it will not be possible to even have this education or these pupils educated, because the parents can no longer afford to do arambes and come up, build the schools. So I am standing up to actually support the discussion and say that apart from the programs which are done by CDF, as we amend, we can also bring amendments to also include school feeding programs. And this can also be anchored in the CDF. We can also include things like programs like Kazi Mtaani, and this would really help the youth who lack, who have not been employed, who have not been educated well. This would enrich the CDF, because it is the only fund whereby you take the fund as a grant, and you don't have to pay as though it's a loan. Other funds like Uwezo Fund, Women Enterprise Fund, Youth Funds, you take and then you have to pay back. But for CDF, it's actually free money, especially to our poor students, especially to our poor parents. And this has really helped in transforming and developing our country, and also educating our pupils to ensure that they get the best, and also get money which they don't have to pay back. Because if it was in terms of loans, then it would be very difficult to even repay this amount of money. If you look at help, you also have to take and repay back. But with bursaries from CDF, this one is free, and therefore makes it possible for pupils to be educated without having to pay back. And I would say that as I support the CDF, I would also support the other funds and say, especially for the CDF, right now we have a lot of problems. There is a lot of famine, especially in some of the counties. There are some 29 counties where there's a lot of famine. There are also areas there's a lot of famine. And if people cannot afford food, to buy food, surely what about education? That means it's very clear that most pupils are not now going to school. Most students are not going to school because they do not have the bursaries, because in the schools I've talked about, the mixed secondary schools, almost 90%, 80 to 90% is paid through, can be paid through bursaries. And this ensures that the pupils stay in school. But during this time of famine, when the parents cannot afford food, then they can also not afford to pay school fees. And therefore, I'm asking the government to release funds for CDF, because the CDF, which is in question, is the one for 2013, the one which was declared unconstitutional. But the NG CDF for 2015 is still constitutional. So immediately the boards, the committees are in place. I urge the government to release the money immediately so that the pupils do not continue to lose in their education, because that means they would perform poorly if they actually stay at home. I would also suggest that we increase the funds so that we can also increase the amount from bursary, and this will really help the parents. I'm also supporting the other funds, the GAF, and also the money for empowerment, for the oversight for the Senate. I'm also supporting those ones. But CDF is very crucial for our pupils, and the parents and everyone, every Kenyan is supporting this. So I support this, and I say that let's anchor this in the Constitution, and also try to amend where possible so that we don't always have to and fro cases in court. With that, Speaker, I support the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for Kitui West. I now call upon Member for Dagoretti North.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this motion, a motion that comes in at a time when many of our students across the country, many of our peoples across the country are wondering whether they will indeed see again national NGC CDF. And Madam Speaker, I